Hey everyone, it's Doug the Retirement Guy, and today we got a big question from one of our Patreon supporters. They come back and said a 15% yield. Is that a yield trap or is it actually real income? So today we're going to break down VistaShares Targeted 15 ETF QUSA. This is going to show you a prime opportunity of what either a yield trap is or what real income really means to a portfolio. I'll tell you later how the person has already put in money into the fund and kind of got a shocker. So let's get into today's video of QUSA, that 15% yield. Is it a yield trap or is it real income? Important disclaimer, the content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not financial advice and the presenter is not a financial advisor. Investing involves risk. Income is never guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results in any way. If you need help, always contact a financial licensed financial professional, as we are not. So I want to just give a fair shout out there to our Retirement Made Easy Living on Dividends coffee mug. This is really what supports the channel. $8.99 plus shipping. Real simple, easy to get. Use the QR code on the side. Go into the description down below. You can see the link right there. But basically, guys, we kind of put this together. I cannot believe how much support you guys have given us. We're almost done with our second full run of coffee mugs, ready to place our third order. Something simple, something unique, something different we thought we would try, and you guys seem to be loving it. So just want to put it out there, our quick ad on our coffee mug for only $8.99. We really appreciate the support, and if you don't be afraid, order one up. Makes for a great late Father's Day gift or anytime around anyone into retirement. So we're going to start off with the big question. A 15% yield sounds awesome and great, especially if you're retirement and you're close to retirement or you're building monthly income. That 15% can make a huge change across the board. But you have to always ask yourself, is this real income or is it actually going to be a yield trap? So you gotta look not just at that 15% yield. I've said this on different times. I've done this in different videos. I'll tell you, you can take a look at that 15 yield, get excited, but you got to look deep into the fund to find out what's going on. Even as somebody at VistaShares calls it a targeted 15, and when they're saying targeted, it means they're paying out 15% is their ultimate goal. Is it still, income or is it a yield trap? So what we need to look at before you do anything at all, and that is there's 6 factors that reveal whether a fund is truly working for you or working against you. 1, income generation. How is the income actually created? The fund holdings, what stocks does it own? The price growth, is the price keeping up or are we actually losing our asset and value? Total return. And you all know that from me. Total return is the first thing we should be looking at. What did an investor actually earn from the advertised yield? Then we're going to take a look at expense ratios. What's it cost to hold this thing? And then a retirement fit. Does this belong in an IRA or is this going to belong in a brokerage fund, or does it really matter which one we're going to get into? So each one of these you have to answer first before you really find out and what your question is. If it's a yield trap, well, total return is going to tell us everything we need to know about it. If we like what we see in total returns, then we're going to be looking again at the price growth, and then we'll be looking at what it holds in funds, so you don't have you have diversification in your portfolio, so you're not just overlapping. And then also, will it fit into which bucket and which part of your retirement? So we said the VistaShares QUSA ETF, it's called a targeted 15. We're going to give it a real run through the system to see. And this is really good for learning learning the whole system. So let's first take a look at what QUSA really is. The primary goal is income first. I want to note that right off the bat. everything you read, everything you look at of this fund is all about income first, long-term capital appreciation second. So it's designed for an income focus. So we know where that goes in our bucket, in our income bucket, if we decide to. The structure is an actively managed ETF combining U.S. quality stocks and options overlay strategy. So very interesting piece when they come with a stocks and an options overlay strategy. So this is not working in an index. This is not an S&P 500. This is not a NASDAQ 100. This is where you have somebody who's paid as a managed active manager to select funds trying to target the goal that they have, which is 15% annually. Now, when you read through the paperwork, they'll tell you we're shooting for a 15% annual yield. They're going to pay out 1.25% per month, which is 15% when you're done. They're paying out monthly. Now, the target is not guaranteed distributions, and it may vary. Okay, so remember, that's why we use the word target. It's a target we're shooting for. We're going to pay out 1.25 per month when we can. And right off the bat, you already probably know this already, ROC is going to be a big part of this. Now, VistaShares Targeted US 15 Quality Income ETF is right in line with this. So what it does, it buys quality US stocks, and some of these are already there: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Costco, J&J, P&G. Okay, so what they do is they buy these stocks. They bring them into their option strategy where they will overlay call options and put options across the board. Okay, so this is that overlay strategy. We've seen a few like OVL doing the same thing. They do these overlay. So they got the stocks. They're going to try to let the stocks grow naturally. Okay, they try not to use that capped upside, but they're going to try to use the overlay to create income, the put to help some protection across the board. So if the market goes up, they're covered. If the market goes down, they're going to generate income to give you that monthly total income. So how does QUSA generate its own income? Well, it owns quality stocks that we talked about, 95 holdings, high profitable, low leveraged funds. It applies option strategies by writing on the underlying securities. So they actually own the stocks and there's writing options underneath those. They're going to collect the premiums that funds those distributions. So the trade-off, higher income equals limited upside. So that's on those covered calls. They're going to limit your upside. So not all the funds will actually always be into that portfolio style. So what funds does it actually hold? Well, like I said, 95 of the quality ones, and I told you some already. So we'll just run down the list. Their number one is Caterpillar. Number two is Apple. Number three is Berkshire Hathaway. Number four comes in Nvidia. Then we see Broadcom, Microsoft, Lam Research, Costco, Eli Lilly, Walmart, Coca-Cola is in there, Netflix is in there. So you got Meta in there. So there's a lot of these. Now, these stocks don't naturally yield 15%. The distributions comes from the strategy, not the dividends. So what we really get into is what are the sectors we're getting into. And I really like this because it was a nice, I felt very, very strong mix. Technology at 37%, consumer staples 16%, financial at 13%, communication services at around 11%, almost 12%, industries around 10%, healthcare at 10%. So highly profitable companies, low leverage, so they're not worrying about them doing much or leaving it, and low or lower earning variability. So these things are just kind of steady. I call them the steady Eddie type funds, like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola just continues to move all the way through. They do pay a small distribution and adds into the fund, but it really has that just natural moving growth forward. Let's take a deeper look into the yield. Now, they advertise a distribution rate 15%. That's their annual targeted payout. They have a 0.00% 30-day SEC yield, which I completely understand because when we looked at the holdings, there were no bonds or U.S. Treasury or anything that they were holding into it. So that doesn't shock me and doesn't do anything to me. But the 15% distribution income is driven by option strategies, not traditional income. So they have to do that work. So the real test is the total return enough to support the total payout. So again, here we are. We're going to look at a 15% yield. Love the number. It's the most attracting number you can see, 15%. The next page you should be looking at is total return. So let's go under the hood on this one and just see what is actually going on. So the VistaShares right now came out in May 6th of 2025. So we're just, 2 months over its first birthday. $19 million in net assets. That 0.95% expense ratio, it's paid $2.81 and a dividend yield of 15.31% over the past 12 months. So they definitely achieved their yield number. More, pat on the back, they did that well. But when we take a look at 1 year, look at the red and look at the number at the top, negative 9.27%. This is exactly what I was talking about. When I see this right off the bat, I'm like, wow, you did do 15%. More power to you. You did what you advertised. So you can't get them on false advertising. They achieved their 15%. But we take a look at the fund, it's lost 9%. Now, most people will say, well, you lost it because of April's drop-off. It recovered since April, but from 1 year out to where it's at now, we're still 9.27% off. So there's something wrong in the VistaShares program. Now, this is the first sign of NAV erosion. Okay, we've had 12 months. I don't see market problems. I see April was a market issue. We know what happened there. But then we went in and it's followed other markets. There's the W, there's the M, comes out. We're seeing a big swing again. But we continue seeing drop, 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 which is the NAV erosion sign. So now let's take a look at the growth over the past 12 months. Now this gets really tricky right in here. They give you a 15% distribution. We already proved that that was correct. But we also now take a look at the total return package, which is basically less than 8%. So when we do a 12-month window, which is exactly the day it was started, the day, May 6th, we snapshotted that. We sat down and said, okay, guys, what's going on here? The price growth lagged behind the distribution. The NAV drifting warning stepped into place. If you collect 15%, but the NAV drifts lower, you are not as far ahead as the headline number suggests. So when I looked at the snapshot, we're down to an 8% distribution. This is where the problem begins. Never judge these funds by yield alone. You have to look at total return. Right now, without seeing a different thing, I can already tell you this is a yield trap. This is someone advertising 15% and you're using your own money to kick you back to get you where you're at. The last slide we just showed you had a 9% price drop and I could see the NAV erosion working onto it. Then I turn around and get to our total return number and we see the same exact thing. So this is where I'm telling you right now, these are the areas when you see that big 15, you look at the 8, all of a sudden we now have a problem. So when I take a look at that total return, as I talked earlier, as of June 30th, okay, the VistaShares program, the NAV total return was 7.97%. Okay, the market price return was 8.26%. So what it means is there's always two numbers, what the market price out there and what the net asset value is two big numbers. 8.26% was the total return. Okay, remember, we're talking a 15% yield, but the market says it only went up 8.26%, which is yield plus growth. So somewhere down the line, we lost about 7% gap between our total return and our targeted distribution. Okay. Now, if I throw this in there and say, now let's dig deeper, and we get into this and say the NAV total return, okay, that means the price itself has dropped off and we are now back to an 8%. I'm rounding up by 0.03, but we're basically up to an 8% total return. That's where we lost 7% in the fund. This immediately tells me a yellow flag. Income exceeded the total return. So you have to watch for NAV erosion over time. If this has happened over 12 months, we have to again look deeper into it. Was it short term or is it long term? Is it just market evaluation, or are we actually seeing that we are unable to achieve, the strategy is unable to achieve 15%? Looking at the numbers today, right now, the yield is not able to, with that strategy, is not able to maintain that 15%. So it's really not hitting the target. You're getting some of your money back just to keep you getting at 15%. Now, here's the best part, the expense ratio. What you're paying, and is it worth it? You have an expense ratio of 0.95% annual expense ratio. Now, what you're paying for is that active manager who has that skilled team to make those daily decisions. Now, they also have the operating strategy, that option strategy. It's a complex derivative execution and the fund structure. Okay, worth it? If you have reliable cash flow and acceptable total returns, sure, 0.95 for an active management is probably okay. Now, there's other funds out there that I believe are better than this, but you don't know. But becomes a drag if the NAV falls year after year after year. So 1% comes out before you even see a single dollar of a net return. So right now, as we said, we're off we got a 7% gap. Well, 1% of it is just pure expenses. Okay. So realistically, that 7% is actually an 8% gap, to be honest with you. Now on taxes, there's another key to it. Where does you hold USA matters, and it doesn't fit everything and everybody. Distributions may include option premiums, dividends, capital gains, interest, and return of capital. Remember how I told you before, return of capital is a double-edged sword? If used properly, it's a great tax burden. It's a great tax guide that can help you down the road. If you use it wrong, it is a portfolio killer. So here we go. We're going to give you two different funds. Taxable accounts, regular brokerage accounts. Ordinary income, definitely is a possibility. Qualified dividends, there's minimal there. And they also have capital gains and return of capital. In a brokerage fund, return of capital helps prevent you from paying additional income on that 15%. Now, here's what the kicker comes into. If they classify them as ordinary income, you're paying full taxes. If they can qualify the dividends, which we put in here, the reason for it is we put possible. They are making these choices, and it's what's coming from distributions and what's coming from regular dividends. There's a lot of working tools inside QUSA. But the biggest one that they are using in the wrong fashion is return of capital. That's what's eating yourself alive. You're just getting your own money back in a lot of cases, and that's what's making up that 8% difference. So it's a more complex than just a plain dividend ETF. There's a lot of things behind the curtain. So realistically, if you're holding this, you need to have it in an IRA or a Roth. Traditional IRA is taxed on with the withdrawal. The Roth IRA qualifies withdrawals, maybe that tax-free, and it's an easier tax management across the board. I would not put this in a brokerage fund. I'd easily put this over to the other side, which would be a Roth for sure. Now, Roth placement does not fix NAV erosion. So don't kid yourself that. It only changes the tax treatment, which will reduce how much you're actually paying again in taxes. So this one is we got a lot of serious warnings coming out of this particular fund. So the question is QUSA a yield trap? Well, let's clarify this. What's real? The income strategy is real. The fund owns real quality companies. The option strategy that they use is actually real. And the monthly distributions are real. But what you have to watch for is the 15% versus the 15% total return is not there. Okay? The gap between payout and total return must come from somewhere. And NAV erosion risk is the pattern that continues over long periods of time. So I personally put this right off the bat to answer your question. I call this a yield trap because you're not getting 15%. You're not getting 10%. You're actually getting 8%. Okay? That's 8%. Now the rest of it is, you get that 15 is your money coming back. You have to roll that back into the fund. You have to put that back into place. So realistically, it's only generating an 8% yield. And it doesn't have good tax treatment. And there's a lot of negative to it. Like I said, that NAV erosion is going to continue dropping and dropping if they don't change something. So the verdict on this one, if you're going to use this is a satellite income position only, not a core retirement holding. And what do you mean by satellite? This is only something to put in your income bucket to maybe push you over a top to get that extra little push that you're not in funds to kind of more diversification. But I'm already sitting here saying I would not be putting my money into QUSA. So how do you use QSA in a retirement account? Well, first off, don't put your whole income into the income bucket into QUSA. Okay? Do not let that 15% fool you. Don't replace SCHD, VOO, JPI, JPQ with a newer fund. It doesn't work. If you want to use it, if you're still at the point that you're like, yeah, I still want this, you need to use it as a satellite position, a smaller slice of your income sleeve, not the whole portfolio. But you have to do some monitoring. I'm telling you right now, number one, NAV trend, and this is the NAV holding value over a drifting lower and lower and lower. You need to keep focus on the total return. Is a total return keeping pace with distributions? This could change. This whole system could change, in year number 2. It could change in year number 3. But you have to watch total return on this one on a regular basis. So this is where I ask retirees, do you want to babysit or do you want to relax and enjoy your money? The distribution stability, is the monthly payout consistent or is it getting cut? So far, we've seen consistency throughout the period of time. In retirement, you don't want just high payments. You want high quality payments. You don't want to be sitting here worrying about, am I getting 15 or am I getting 8? Am I getting 15? Now I'm going to get 7. What is the real number you're getting from it? It's hard to plan accordingly. So in my final verdict of all this, QUSA summary is this. What QUSA offers is exposure to quality U.S. companies that pays monthly distributions that's targeting 15%, and it uses option strategy to create that income. But what you have to be careful for is the fund is still very young. It's only a year old. It's got a limited track record. It's got a very high expense ratio of 0.95, even though you have a managed team. It's still above most levels. And that 1 year total return is lower than the distribution rates. This is my prime example of a yield trap. You're thinking you're getting 15 when you're not. So this one, for me, it's definitely on a watch list for income ETF. It's nothing I'm going to grab onto. It's going to give it a second year, maybe 3 years for it on my watch list, and then I'll probably be walking away if it doesn't fix itself quickly. So what would you use this for as income, but understand the trade-off before buying into it or automatically buying into this fund. I can't say it enough. I don't want to tell someone completely no, don't buy it, but I'm telling you right now, yield trap is the warning sign here. So the truth about yield, What really matters in a retirement portfolio is going to be this. What gets your attention is that yield. It did for me. When I first ever saw this fund, I jumped all over it. I'm like, wow, 15%, this is phenomenal. But what tells me the truth is the total return. And because it was so new, I had to give it time to develop, and I watched it. And I'll tell you straight out, that 7% gap in there, so the total return of 8% told me everything. No, this is a true hardcore yield trap. I've talked about it many times on the channel. This gives you the ultimate thing. The real goal in retirement is to get paid without destroying your portfolio. It's that monthly income, it's NAV stability, and that total return. Remember, this one came from one of our Patreon supporters. And if you own it, let me know in the comments below what you think about the QUSA and being a yield trap, and also if you like what we're doing. But since this really did come from a Patreon guy, I just want to shoot out one more thing to everyone. Don't forget about our Retirement Made Easy Living on Dividends coffee mug. It's a 12-ounce mug. You can get it for only $8.99. This is what helps support the channel. This is why I put it out there. It helps support the channel. Real easy to get. Hit that QR code. You go right to a website, click it, go for it. Everything's safe and secure. We get your coffee mug out immediately. So just another way of help supporting the channel. Thank you for watching.